Good morning and welcome to the Western Regional Water Commission meeting for February 18, 2026. And we'll call the meeting
Recording
to
in
order.
progress.
We'll call the meeting to order at 8:37 in the morning. And can we start out with a roll call, please? Here.
Clara Andriola.
Present.
Alexis Gill.
Here.
Susan Sever.
Here.
Naomi Durr.
Here. And we can hardly hear you. Here.
Kathleen Taylor.
Here.
Mary Luz Garcia.
Here.
Miguel Martinez.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Great, thank you. And could we get Member Vanderwell to do the Pledge of Allegiance for us, please?
Sure. If you'll please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great, thank you very much. And we'll go on to public comment. Do we have any public comment? No public comment? All right, move on to item number 4, approval of the agenda.
So moved. Second.
All right, we have a first with Member Vanderwell, second with Andriola. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. Approval of the minutes from the November 5th, 2025 Western Regional Water Commission and Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission concurrent meeting.
Move to approve. Second.
All right, we have a motion by Andriola, a second by Vanderwell. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Passes unanimously. And we'll move on to item number 6. Action, discussion, possible approval of a scope of work funding not to exceed $211,000 from the Regional Water Management Fund for a professional services agreement with the Resource Concepts Incorporated to update the 2020 Integrated Source Water and 319H Watershed Protection Plan for public water systems in the Truckee River in Truckee Meadows. And is this Bridget that's going to be presenting this?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the Commission. Birgit Whittegren for the record. The 2020 Integrated Source Water and Watershed Protection Plan has been implemented by regional partners since its approval in 2015. It's been 5 years since the plan was approved, and it's widely recognized by our partners that it needs a comprehensive update. Jill Sutherland, Senior Engineer and Director of RCI's environmental team, is here to present a proposal to update the plan, I hope. She's been having some difficulty hearing us. So hopefully, Jill, are you available? Oh, I'm not hearing her.
Birgit, thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Oh, great. I don't know if you can see my slides that I have up or...
I cannot see slides right now.
Let me give one more try.
If you can't, I can go ahead and share my screen, I think.
Yes, if you could share your screen, Birgit, I think that would be a big help. Apologies for the technical difficulties this morning.
Okay, let's see.
That's okay. It's pretty much the way things are going this morning.
Yes. Okay, here we go.
Great. Well, thank you. Good morning, Birgit. Good morning, commissioners. Thank you for having me here. I'm going to do a little overview of the project, which we'll refer to as the 2020 Source Water and Watershed Plan. This community is all about water, and you've done a great job. As Birgit mentioned, next slide, Birgit. The plan was put together in 2016 through 2020 and implemented through the current time, 2026. And it's been implemented so enthusiastically by the partners that it's really time for an update. So who are the partners here? On the screen, you'll see a graphic, and you can see there's a lot. It's a long list. And I have to say that partner who helped us put the plan together here has also continued to implement their piece of the plan. Next screen. And here we should have a screen that says implemented. We've done a huge number of various activities, everything from the city of Reno adopting source
Jill?
water protection code.
Hey,
Yes.
Jill, sorry to interrupt you, but could you do me a favor and try speaking either louder or closer to the mic? It's difficult to hear you.
Okay, is this better?
Yes, thank you.
Great. Sorry for that. And I was just going to talk a little bit about what's been implemented to date. There's a short list up on the screen, and we've done a huge variety of things from City of Reno adopting source water protection code to the current rehab efforts on the Gold Ranch fire up by Verde that have been funded through some 319 grants and collaboration with other partners. This is just a short list, and there's a really comprehensive list on the website, which is Washoe County cleanwater.org. But we do have quarterly meetings, and we've heard from the partners that we need an update. So what needs to be updated? Next slide, Birgit, with the map of Hunter Creek. One of the things that's key to this plan was a geospatial analysis of land jurisdiction and ownership, and that produced some of these pretty maps like you see on the screen, which are all throughout the plan. This base was from 2019 data, and now we're in 2026. And so that's one of the things that needs to be updated. Next slide, Birgit. So phase one of the project would be, first engaging all the partners and making sure that we hear what's needed. And then reviewing the public water systems throughout the county and their water sources to see if there's any changes. And then updating the geospatial analysis and the mapping, and then reorganizing the website content with the help of the Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Agency, who currently hosts the Washoe County cleanwater.org website. Phase one will then inform phase two. Next slide, phase two, Birgit. So once we've got all the data together, then the fun part comes. We get to come up with a long list, hopefully, of new projects. A lot of the projects that were on the original list have been implemented or are ongoing. We've also heard that the partners want to improve the tracking of the plan to be able to demonstrate performance. They also want to integrate it into the regional planning framework more seamlessly. And then sort of the final step of phase two is to go back to all the partners and make sure the plan is approved. And with that, the last slide. Thank you so much. Sorry for technical difficulties. And do you have any questions?
All right, thank you very much, Jill, appreciate it. Do we have any questions from the members? All right. Anyone that's tuned in virtually wish to speak? Oh, yes, Kathleen, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks for the presentation. Jill, I think you answered this in your presentation, but I just want to ask the question that you are coordinating with regional planning and Jeremy Smith over there and making sure that we're not duplicating efforts. I know we're doing our natural resources plan. So wanted to make sure that was a resource for you and you had everything you needed for collaboration.
Yes, they've been an essential partner from when we started the planning process with folks in like 2017, and they continue to host the website and make sure it's integrated with what they're currently developing. and even more integrated going forward. We really appreciate them.
And I think at the regional level, we are boosting our GIS services too. That's something that we are going to be working towards in the future. So if you need any help with that, please let us know. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead. Oh. Okay. You're welcome. Sorry. Having some hearing difficulties here. So any other questions from the commissioners?
Yes. This is Naomi.
Yes, go ahead, Naomi.
Yeah, I was just wondering when the project would be completed.
I think the update would be completed. We're looking at fiscal year 2028. By the time we take it back before all the participating partners and get their approval.
2028, so 2 more years.
Yes.
Okay. And the last plan you said was completed when?
It was completed in 2020.
So, okay. Thank you.
Member Dewar, did you have another question or was that it?
No, that was it.
Okay. Call for questions one more time here. All right, not hearing any. We'll go ahead and open it up for a motion.
Second.
Motion made by Andriola, and I thought I heard someone else.
Doer, second.
Dewar, thank you very much. A motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Moving on to item number 7, presentation possible acceptance of the Raftalis final report and findings of the wastewater regionalization feasibility study, phase 1A, identification of challenges and objectives. And I believe this is you, Ms. Rigdon.
That's correct. Thank you very much, Chairman. Good morning, members of the commission. Kim Rigdon for the record. As you know and heard back in November, Raftalis has completed phase 1A of the wastewater regionalization feasibility study. And we have the project manager back. We're happy to have him back to give us a presentation of the results of that report. And then in the next item, we'll talk about next steps and how we're moving forward. So Zach, are you online? I see the presentation slide up.
Okay, great. Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Just let me know if I need to speak up at any point.
Mr. Chair, this is Kathleen. I need to read a disclosure very quick for 7 and 8.
Oh, I'm sorry, please, go ahead. Yes, thank you.
Okay. Chair, I'd like to make a disclosure regarding this matter in relation to NRS 281A.420. I'd like to disclose that I understand Jacobs Engineering to be a subconsultant to Raftalis on this project. My company, Tailor Made Solutions, is a subconsultant to Jacobs Engineering on an unrelated project. I have no connection to this project. As a result, I conclude that the independence of judgment of a reasonable person in my situation would not be materially affected by this relationship. And because this is not a case of a disqualifying conflict of interest, I am going to be voting on this matter. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Member Taylor. And Mr. Green, go ahead, sir.
All right, great. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us today. As Kim mentioned, I'm the project manager for the wastewater regionalization feasibility study. My colleague, John Mastracchio, our project director, is on the call as well. And I do want to acknowledge contributions in phase 1A from Jacobs, as well as Zanjero, in particular, Gwen Mortelli and Dylan Menace. So we recently completed the first phase of the feasibility study. It was focused again on regional planning and management of wastewater utilities and effluent disposal. We delivered a revised final report on that phase of work. The scope consisted of documenting regional challenges associated with wastewater management, and really identifying the specific objectives for this exploration of regional wastewater management alternatives. So the work completed in this phase, we hope, is a foundation for further evaluation in future phases. Initially, we said submitted sort of an end-to-end scope, and what the group wanted to do was do a little bit of, I think, problem definition and kind of set the path forward in that phase 1A. So there's a subsequent contract under item 8 here for your consideration. But first, I'm going to go through kind of the final findings from phase 1A. Some of this I don't think will be new to the group, but I'm glad we've kind of gotten comments from everybody and are now able to present where we landed. So again, this is about documenting the challenges. You know, they're different for every organization, but some of them are common to the region. The participants, of course, included the commission members, organizations. So documenting challenges and exploring those objectives for regionalization. And really, we hope our report kind of covered all that. And I think we did get a broad set of comments, but I think generally there was agreement that we were kind of on the right track so far, and I hope you'll agree. So what did we do in this phase 1A? We reviewed a lot of documents and data, and this was something that I think folks on the staff commission and NWPC really wanted us to do. There's a lot of organizations involved and a lot of complex challenges with respect to, you know, local economics and the environment, and then local government management. So we took a lot of time to really become experts, or at least very familiar with what these organizations are doing and what they're struggling with and what they're excelling at too. We then sort of interviewed key staff across the organizations to hear from them about what they're struggling with and what they're looking to accomplish through this study, and conducted follow-up discussions, and then really held some topic-based workshops based on what we were hearing. And that's what you see on the right side of this slide. So the topics that we covered, there were 8 of them, and I believe we took 2 days to kind of go through all these sessions. So we looked at governance and valuation, future water balance and demands, optimizing existing capacity, how cost shares might be negotiated in the future, navigating aging infrastructure and innovation on new investment, sewer shed misalignment that we'll talk about in a little bit in terms of where you have sewers leading to a plant that has a different owner. Just other general collaborative opportunities, and then stormwater management is a big part of this feasibility study as well, that I know folks are interested in hearing if there's a regional opportunity there as well. So across all of these 8 workshops, we had identified case studies in the issue identification that allowed us to say, you know, how might this look currently? What are we struggling with? How could this be different under a regional alternative? And so I think those case studies were able to help the group kind of ideate a little bit on what they might hope to accomplish. And that really helped us refine those regionalization objectives, and even preliminarily at least identify what some wastewater management alternatives might look like. So the challenges that we distilled, there are also 8 of those, and they do align with kind of those workshop topics to a large extent that we talked about. They're listed here. I don't think any of them changed in any meaningful way, you know, from the draft report or prior presentations to today. And I don't want to be too redundant, so I'm going to keep moving. You know, in general, these are covering challenges that really any wastewater organization is going to struggle with to some extent, but where there's a belief that the current sort of fragmented governance, you know, maybe making things more difficult, or in the case of stormwater, where it's really handled very differently by each entity. One I wanted to highlight, though, that sort of emerged as more prominent, I think, as we spoke, is just the acknowledgement that there are sort of layers of interlocal agreements that have sort of built and evolved over many years. And there's a question as to whether those agreements are driving complexity or slowing decision-making that could be better in a regional alternative. So we don't have the answers to solve these challenges yet. What we have are objectives that folks want to see studied through future phases of work, to determine if there's a there in terms of regional options to address these challenges. The sort of core areas where there's a hypothesis that there could be a benefit to working together more in the future, or I should say coming together. I think you guys already are working together significantly and well in many ways. But those areas are fewer. At a high level, the question is, can we increase financial and administrative efficiency? So can we bend the cost curve going forward is how we like to think about this. Maybe rates won't go down compared to the status quo, but if we look at the future and how much they're expected to increase, can they increase less? Often that's one of the most realistic goals, but you never know. Sometimes you can achieve real savings as well. And it's going to depend sort of regionally where rates are currently and whether you're looking at the near term or the long term. So that's a question. If we're going to do a regionalization feasibility study, we have to understand how this is going to impact financials and the elegance of sort of overhead roles and administrative efficiency as well. Next objective, integrated water resource management. What we mean by that and get into significantly in the report is that there is a nexus between water supply, wastewater management, and even stormwater management, and that there's a hypothesis that those could be better coordinated or more easily acted upon and influenced through a coming together that doesn't just include wastewater, but maybe also includes water and stormwater, or maybe it's just wastewater and stormwater coming together and Tumwa stays by itself. So we'll talk about those alternatives in a bit. Other objectives around operational optimization and reliability. At the end of the day, all the organizations are, fulfilling their responsibilities, but some might be doing things a little bit differently. Maybe there are best practices in there. Maybe there's staff specialization and expertise that could be deeper in a regional entity where things are maybe more siloed and people don't have to wear so many hats, like might be the case at a smaller organization. Strategic planning and problem solving kind of gets at the idea that when you have layered governance, it can be harder to achieve the momentum to make big changes, to invest in innovative ways. And that maybe with more unified governance, you can do that more easily. I think some of what we heard is that there's some sense that that happens quicker at an organization like Tumwa that has brought the region together. Greater certainty for development is one that I think some of the commission members here have reflected that they have heard. So that is to say that the priorities of the development community shouldn't be necessarily the North Star of a wastewater utility, but that there may be an opportunity to sort of smooth the way their experience for the benefit of the region through regional alternative, to make things more consistent, to make decision-making and infrastructure that's related to it, development, sort of be unlocked more efficiently for the benefit of the region economically. And doing that, of course, while continuing to be a good steward to the environment as well. At the same time, there are certain concerns and obstacles that bubbled up in phase 1A, and I think we have to be mindful of these if we do move forward. In any regionalization feasibility study, a prominent theme can be fears of a loss of local control. So will I feel represented as a currently separate municipality or agency on a more regional, in a more regional governance structure? So I may have a seat on the board, but how are decisions made? How many seats do I have? And do I feel that my community is being heard, that my community is being invested in? So that comes up frequently. Financial and resource equity. There are investments that have been made and infrastructure assets that are not fully through their useful life. So how do we navigate transition to a regional entity in a way that is equitable to communities? Governance complexity and political will, I think I mentioned a little bit before in terms of the opportunity. There's this thought that with fewer layers, there's an elegance in decision-making that might be preferable. But at the same time, what that means is that under the status quo, saying yes to a regional alternative might be difficult. It's hard, it takes a lot of work to build the political will. In terms of staffing and labor relations, people want to make sure that their job isn't threatened. In an ideal world, they are getting better pay or benefits, if not the same. through a transition, and their responsibility is not being diminished. So that's always tricky, and you have to pay a lot of attention to that through a transition. The short-term priorities of agencies may be different than a regional, decision-making body might initially move towards. So are those things incongruent? Can one agency do all the things that each community feels are urgent, or do they have to prioritize in a way that the individuals currently feel could be not beneficial or optimal for their community? And then again, just momentum and risk aversion. I think there's been some conversations about regional wastewater management before. They have made progress. In some cases, they led to commissions like the one I stand before today. But there's this question of whether, the ball can be pushed much further depending on how the feasibility study turns out. So we do have a proposal in queue. It's the next item on your agenda. It comprises 2 phases that may play out over anywhere from 10 to 14 months, we think. I think our initial timelines were a little bit longer as proposed, but we have shortened them based on feedback, and we think they're still achievable. The goal here is to really validate regional alternatives that came out of the first scope of work to address the challenges and objectives that Phase 1A. Phase 1A was really trying to just distill those challenges and objectives, but I think through that, some possible alternatives emerged. They weren't really formed fully. And so I think Phase 1B is about more fully forming what those alternatives are. So this preliminary evaluation will consider a regional wastewater agency. It will consider a combined regional water and wastewater agency. It will consider how inclusion of stormwater might look in either of those 2 alternatives. And then it will consider an alternative that is less different than the status quo if those other larger regional alternatives prove not to be viable. And that is the alignment of sewer sheds that I mentioned earlier with the water reclamation facility ownership. So where we have a bifurcation in the horizontal assets from the vertical assets, if we just bring those things together, will that sort of improve will that represent maybe an improved version of the status quo where we don't have full regional governance, but at least we now have asset alignment? So the goal will be to select a short list of regional models for further evaluation in a Phase 1C, and this really would get into the meat of analysis. A lot of what we will have done through Phase 1A and parts of 1B is more qualitative. In Phase 1C, we will be looking more formally at organizational structure, but also staffing and collective bargaining and salaries and benefits and organizational charts under alternatives, budgets and rates and debt, asset compensation, valuation, and how that impacts our ratepayers over time, and other sort of administrative considerations that really require rigorous analysis. Raftellus has a lot of pedigree as a financial and management consulting firm, and I think this is where we can really add a lot of value to help you guys make decisions by turning sort of concepts into our best estimate that we can come up with this time of the impacts financially and operationally for wastewater management. And so out of that, you would get an assessment of the feasibility of proceeding with regional alternatives that will allow you to make a decision. We did initially also propose a Phase 1D, but I think there's a thought that that will come depending on the outcomes of 1B and 1C. That would develop an implementation plan and do things like stakeholder engagement to vet all this analysis with a broader audience. So with that, I will pause and we are happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Zach. That was very informative and likewise the material that you provided. I'm going to go ahead and open it up for questions here in Sparks. Any questions up here? Okay, Ms. Taylor, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the presentation. I don't know if this is an appropriate question for this presentation or the next one, Mr. Green, but I am really interested in accelerating the timeline of this. If you want to put that slide back up, I think this is something, and you can let me know if you want me to ask this in the next slide or now if it's appropriate, but.
It's your agenda.
Well, I guess my question for you is, are you prepared to answer it right now?
Okay, let's see what the question is.
I think if phase 1B is 4 to 6 months, phase 1C is 6 to 8 months. I mean, living in the consultant world and study world, I'm looking about 2 years just before we can move forward with this. What are your ideas? And I'd ask my colleagues if there's interest in this to move this faster.
Yeah,
This
so
is an imminent problem.
yeah, I mean, one thing I will say is that in terms of our capacity to execute, we're looking across the phases at a $475,000 scope. We have a relatively large team that is going to bill far more than that across all of our clients in the next year. And you guys are high on the list because we're early in the year, right? That work builds through the year. So I don't have any concern that we don't have the capacity to execute this work in the time proposed. The constraints on being able to do that are that there are big decisions here. We're talking about a prioritization of regional models at the end of phase 1B. In phase 1C, there's a lot of complex analysis that we need to work with y'all to make sure you understand and give you time to review it, right? So I know that we have the capacity to execute the work. We've already collected a lot of the data that is needed. We may need another tranche of it just because we're later on in time than we were at the beginning of phase 1A. So we may have to recollect some of that data. But because we started with phase 1A, I think the agencies were wise in that they've given us a leg up as we come into 1B and 1C to move faster. I think with an authorization early in this year, we will be well equipped to execute as quickly as you guys are capable of making decisions.
Okay, so that's the key point for me is you guys are ready to go. You have the resources, you have the capacity. We need to allocate the appropriate budget and give you what you need from our side to move this through faster. So I guess maybe that's a discussion for the next item. But I guess to confirm, you have the capacity, you have the resources. If we were to say we want to do this in 12 months, which I don't know if there's an appetite to do that, you would be able to come back and say, yes, that's doable. We need A, B, and C.
Yeah, no, so we could definitely produce those timelines. And, John, I know you're on, you're our project director. If there's anything else that you would want to add in terms of what's critical to make sure we stay on track, given the urgency being expressed here, feel free to jump in.
Yeah, no, Ms. Taylor, I think we could accelerate this more. I think the opportunity for 1B to accelerate is there. I think 1C is got a lot of analysis that we would need to get through. So that one, it may be a little bit harder to condense, but certainly 1B, if we combine 1B and 1C and do that within a 12-month timeframe, I think that's very doable.
I appreciate those answers, and I look forward to hearing my colleagues' input on that too. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Member Dewar.
Thank you very much. That was a very interesting presentation. I know you guys have been working on this for a long time. And I think it's about 2 years, roughly. Is that right?
How long we've been working on it?
Yeah, the whole project about the sewer.
Well, if we're actually able to get through everything,
No, how long have you been, not going forward?
Yeah, I think just over the last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was wondering two things. One, could you summarize what you've said? Where are we in terms of, I know you've vetted a lot of this with our various staff that deal with sewer.
Mm-hmm.
And just how would you summarize what you just told us?
In terms of the challenges and objectives, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, you've done the identification work, but have you found like a critical issue or something that you think if we did want to regionalize would be like the thing we have to deal with?
I think I can highlight that. But there may be others on your side who might clarify things. But I think it was, one thing that was said early in the project, but also repeatedly, is that in terms of water supply, you don't have a near-term capacity issue, but there are opportunities for long-term optimization. In terms of wastewater capacity, you have a near-term challenge, near to midterm challenge with significant capital investment ramifications that is already starting to bump up against growth. Now, there are decisions that could be made under your current governance structures to unlock that. But those are decisions that are having to be made, I think, over and over again, and are expected to come up more and more in the future.
Well,
And
are
so
you talking about sorry to interrupt, are you talking about basically our capacity to treat effluent or sewer? Is that what you're
Yeah.
talking about? Just the infrastructure to push the water through?
Yes.
And that we have to make investments in order to keep up with demand?
Correct, yes. And some
And
of
you
these
don't
things
see
are.
leveling in any
No,
way?
I mean, your region is, of course, growing, and I think is a really nice sort of success story for the country, really, an area where there's land, where there's growth. And if we manage our resources well, there are resources to support that growth. But there's a lot of complex decision-making that goes into making the investments in infrastructure to ensure that continues in a way that is sustainable environmentally and economically.
Well,
Yeah.
like an example would be, I know that the Lemon Valley plant that's owned by Washoe County was really significantly impacted by a 2017 flood out there. And and it's an older plant, and they're looking to either combine with the Reno Stead plant or, do something. And I'm sure their decision would be strongly influenced by what we decide to do here. Like, I'm sure they're waiting to see, is this going to be a regional issue for infrastructure, or are they on their own?
That's right. I mean, they could still decide to decommission that facility and route the flow to Risworth, even if there's no regionalization. But maybe that transition would be easier under a regional entity. So that's a good example.
Our challenge at the Reno Stead plant is that, we have to have a place to put the effluent. And that's why, we've looked at these alternatives, from a reservoir to sending it out Long Valley Creek to, doing what we're doing, which is investing in the One Water Nevada, turning it into drinking water. So, and that's gone through its pilot phase and is now into an implementation. But I think, and I don't know if anyone on the team recalls the current date for that process to be completed where we go live. Because it won't be until we go live with that, then we could actually add capacity at Reno Stead.
Right. And the timelines of infrastructure decisions and operational considerations are never going to align perfectly with a regionalization study and a decision to go or no go a regional authority or anything like that. There's always going to be things where it's like, well, how do we budget for next year and bridge this transition, right? So I definitely hear what you're saying. But I think that was indeed one of the case studies that was the focus of the workshops. And I think as people thought about it, my sense was that those case studies collectively provided a motivation to continue studying regional alternatives. So I'm glad you highlighted that.
Okay, well, the last question I had was, you mentioned something in your presentation. I don't think I totally understood it. You said something about it shouldn't be developer driven, and I wasn't sure exactly what you were getting at.
Yeah, happy to share on that and be frank. So I think early in the study, in one of the first meetings when we went out there, somebody said something like, I think this whole thing is being driven by developers in the ears of commission boards or something like that. That a developer is coming and saying, I want this development unlocked. So, why can't you do things more like Tumwa? Comments like that, right?
Okay.
And I won't be, specific. I don't even remember specifically who said that. And so as consultants, we're trying to listen and interpret and make sure we're capturing things. I think as the study went on and that sentiment was regurgitated, there was a reaction that sort of said, let's make sure we aren't letting developers drive decision makings in isolation in the region. We need to take a broader lens. What's right for ratepayers? What's right for my municipal bottom line? Right? So that's where I was coming from with that.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, but we've sort of put that aside and we're focusing on the regional needs, separate and apart from any 1 or 2 or 10 developers, and looking at the whole system in
They're
this
absolutely a
work here?
stakeholder. So they're not, that sentiment is not going to be ignored, but it's going to be
Right.
blended with a lot of other sentiments.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, Member Andriola, go ahead.
Thank you. I just really want to thank you for this. It's many of the people that actually are on this call probably remember this conversation starting quite some time ago, but really has narrowed down to where we're at now and engaging your expertise and analysis and looking at a solution or a variety of solutions. And so I really want to thank you because I remember in 2023, sitting in a room with many folks and saying, look, we really need to have this kind of big decision as we move through growth. Regionalization seems to be a topic for all of us in various capacities, but this is really critical to our future. And it's really nice to actually hear that our area is actually doing things very effectively. And this is going to be, I think, another milestone for the future of our community. So having it accelerated is always wonderful because I've been talking about this since 2023, and I'm sure others have been talking about it long before then. But I don't want to compromise the quality for acceleration either, but I would like to hit the pedal on the gas a bit too. So without jeopardizing the quality of what needs to be done and the outcome to be the best it can. I think there's going to be some tough decisions. I think all jurisdictions are really open and recognizing to what we're all going to be faced with and what that looks like, whether it is possibly standing up another comparable organization, much like Tumwa was stood up. Time will tell, but I just want to thank you for the great work that you're doing and being able to celebrate in the advance your expeditious outcome and the results would be wonderful, but thank you.
Thanks for sharing that feedback. We appreciate it.
Before we go to Member Dewar, are there any other members online that have any questions? All right, go ahead, Naomi.
I just wanted to put the exclamation point on what Commissioner Andriola said, which is that even 10 years before that, she mentioned 2023. So roughly 10 years before that, or let's just call it 9, a bunch of elected officials, 10 of us sat in a room, members of Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Agency Board, Governing Board, and all to a person said our number one issue affecting growth and our future was our ability to deal with sewer issues. And as part of that, I think it was almost understood that at some point we probably would need to regionalize. We've seen the benefits of regionalization in other entities. We've seen it, of course, with Tumwa, as mentioned, but we've also seen it with flood. We've also seen it with this board itself. And so and we're working on fire now. So it makes sense from a lot of perspectives to bring our resources and our talent together to do better for our region. And so I commend what Ms. Andriola said and support it, and times 2, because this has been going on quite a while. Back about 8, 9, 10 years ago, we didn't know the answer. We didn't know how bad, that the growth trajectory would increase as much as it did in this last 10 years. But I think we subconsciously understood where things were going and what the challenges were. I mean, we began what we called in Reno the Flow Shave program, I think it was 8 years ago, trying to create more capacity without actually building more plant. We ultimately had to double the capacity of our plant. And then we were left with how do we deal with the effluent, the big bottleneck in that. So anyway, I've been supportive of this project from the start and look forward to us concluding it.
Thank you.
Hey, Zach, I do have a couple questions. So could you do me a favor and clarify the stakeholders that you've been working with thus far?
Yeah, I mean, maybe the first thing I'll say is we look forward to engaging with the tribe who was not involved in Phase 1A as much, other than through some of the commission presentations. But I know they're a stakeholder we want to engage with. I think that the Phase 1D that I mentioned, the thought is that will include stakeholder engagement. We feel it's important to start explaining what you guys are doing as soon as you're comfortable doing that. But that's a decision you have to make. And we have resources to help support communication planning when you're ready for that. So far, we've engaged with obviously both commissions and the agencies within them. So Washoe County, the city of Sparks, the city of Reno, as well as the Sun Valley General Improvement District, as well as Tumwa.
Okay, thank you. And I guess the one thing I would encourage is, it sounded like in the presentation that it was in 1C. But to your point, I think the sooner that we engage other partners, whether it's tribal, ratepayers, even developers, the better off we're going to be. Because it seems like sometimes we start looking at regionalization without including all the folks that are actually a part of this region. So I would encourage that we focus on moving that forward as quickly as possible to begin that engagement process.
Okay. I appreciate you sharing that. I mean, there's a very structured process you can go through to figure out what are our messages, what are we comfortable sharing at this point? Are we just explaining that we're doing this study and here's what the study is? Are we sharing analyses and findings as they come out? And then what you typically do is identify your stakeholder set and prioritize them on different axes. Who just needs to be, kept informed at the highest level and who really needs to be engaged persistently along the way at a more detailed level. So.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Open it up for one final call for questions. All right, then do we have a motion to approve?
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve as presented. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion made by member Andriola, a second by Vanderwell. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? And it passes unanimously. We'll move on to number 8, action, discussion, possible approval of a scope of work and funding not to exceed $475,000 from the Regional Water Management Fund for Raftalis to provide financial consulting services for Phase 1B and 1C of a feasibility study on regional planning and management of wastewater utilities and effluent disposal. And does it stay with you, Zach, or does this go to you, Kim?
This comes to me, Chairman. Thank you very much. Members of the Commission, Kim Rigdon for the record. Based on Phase 1A findings, we have a recommendation from the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission during their February 4th meeting to move forward with Phase 1B and 1C and approve funding in the amount of $475,000 from the Regional Water Management Fund to do so. Based on the conversation in the previous item in expediting things, staff had previously funded $175,000 to get us through this fiscal year and $300,000 to get us through next fiscal year. If there's any anticipation of expediting this or moving this a little bit faster, we may need a recommendation from the board to fully fund the $475,000, which would allow them to continue moving this forward this fiscal year. I would leave that up to the board to decide, and we do have the funding available rather than stop and go at the, end of sometime during this fiscal year through next fiscal year. So I'll leave that up to the board to make that recommendation. But I did want to let you know that we do have the funding to go ahead and fully fund this fiscal year. And with that, I don't think Zach, I don't know that you need to add to this. I think you went through it really well in the last presentation. So unless the board has any questions on the next phases and scope of work and funding, we'll turn it back over to the board for a decision.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
unless Mr. Green has anything in addition, I would like to actually move to fund it in full at the $475,000 with lots of prayers on Ash Wednesday for expeditious result.
I'll second.
Mr. Chair, I have a discussion item. This is Kathleen. I'm wondering if in the motion, we could say something about trying to get it done within a year timeframe, or I think it sounds like the board is dedicated to moving this forward as fast as possible and seeing what it would take to do that. And that's more for discussion.
Okay, thank you, Member Taylor. We already have a motion.
Mr. Chair, I obviously am very supportive of moving as quickly as possible. I think the fact that we are funding this based on Ms. Rigdon's recommendation, that we look at the full funding so that 1B and 1C can move as quickly as possible is, from my perspective, I'm confident enough in them hearing the sense of urgency and not trying to put a timeline that where they may run into something and then they may have to come back. So I'd like to go ahead and leave it as mentioned. And if legal would like me to read the actual motion as written, I'm happy to do that as well.
I don't think that's necessary.
Thank you. It does have a completion date of June 30th, 2027. So, and earlier would be great.
Okay, so we had a motion made by Member Andriola, a second by Vanderwell.
It was Dewar, actually, but okay.
Was there comment before we go to vote? Okay, not hearing any, then we'll go ahead and go to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Passes unanimously. Move on to item 9, action, discussion, possible direction to staff, approval of the draft WRWC fiscal year 2026-2027 or FY27 tentative budget. Ms. Rigdon?
Thank you, Chairman, members of the commission, Kim Rigdon for the record. I'm just going to ask Jen in the room. I am not in charge of the item slides.
Kim, could you do me a favor and either move closer to the mic or speak up?
How's this? Is that better?
A little bit, thank you.
Okay, I'll do my best. I'm sorry, I'm in a little hotel room with a laptop, so I'll do my best to yell into the computer. Jen, do you have the item slides up, and can I cue you on advancing slides? I'm not seeing them on my screen. Perfect. Can everybody see the item slides now online and in the room?
We can hear.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So members of the commission, it's budget season, and we're doing ours a little bit early because we're not going to have a meeting in March to approve the tentative budget. We have to submit the tentative budget to the Department of Taxation by April 15th, and staff has scheduled a public hearing for the WRWC to approve the final budget on May 27th to meet our adoption deadline of June 1st, 2026. So in your board packet under item 8, attachment A, is the fiscal year 27 tentative budget. And staff has worked closely with the Washoe County Budget Office to make sure that our projected revenues can cover our planned expenses. Total anticipated revenue from our 1.5% water surcharge fees, which is where our revenue comes from, is estimated to be $2.1 million, and that is up almost $96,000 from last fiscal year's projections due to water rate increases over the past couple of years. Total estimated expenses, including professional services contracts and the contract you just heard about, the last two items on the agenda, those are estimated at $3.9 million, and those are up from $3.4 million last year. The estimated cash balance that we have in our bank is $2.6 million, and that is up from $1.8 million last year. So if you note that the cash balance and anticipated revenue combined are sufficient to cover all of our planned expenses for that fiscal year. For fiscal year 27, projected cash balance of $732,068 meets our minimum 6-month recommended operating budget at the end of the year. And next slide. All right. So I like to present this slide. I think this is a great breakdown when we talk about, in some of our previous discussions, we talk about how the Regional Water Management Plan addresses different water planning topics under the Regional Water Resources Planning effort. And so you can see as a part of attachment 8A is our professional services budget detail. And here you'll see the breakdown of all the projects that the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission has prioritized to implement the Regional Water Management Plan. You'll see that some of the projects haven't been fully developed or don't have a fully developed scope of work, and they're labeled TBD, to be determined, and that there's a project contingency line of $900,000. That project contingency is the same as last year, and that's been made available on the budget to address those TBD, to be determined projects as their scopes of work are developed throughout the year, so that we have adequate budget to prop those projects up. There was a significant increase in the wastewater and effluent management category this year compared to last year, obviously to accommodate the Raft-Tallis feasibility study, and in the water quality category to include the RCI update to the source water and watershed plan. You heard both of those presentations today. And due to the increase in water surcharge fees and expenses coming in a little bit lower this year on some of our projects, the contingency budget remained the same, and we're going to have no problem funding those projects. Next slide. All right, so I wanted to throw up our budget, our routine operating budget totals from last year compared to this year. You'll see a slight increase due to cost of living increases in both the staff services and non-staff services. Our non-staff services include our video company, SOSU, that accommodates broadcasts our meetings. We have other contracts as well that have staff in those contracts that have a cost of living increase. So we did see a little bit of an increase in both categories. So our routine operating expense total is $819,333 this year. Next slide. Great. And that's what I have on the budget. I'll turn the time back over to you, Chairman. We're really confident in the budget. It's been really steady from year to year, and we haven't seen any issues with meeting our expenses from year to year. We have again, that $900,000 in contingency funding to accommodate our projects as they're developed. And with that, I'll turn it over to the board for questions on the budget.
Thank you, Kim. Do we have any questions on this item? All right, then we'll go ahead and bring it back for a motion.
Move to approve.
We have a motion from Member Vanderwell, a second from Member Andriola. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? All right, thank you. Passes unanimously. Move on to item number 10, election of WRWC Chair, Vice Chair, Secretary, and Treasurer for the 2026 calendar year. And Ms. Rigdon.
Thank you, Chairman. Every year, we hold officer elections for the WRWC. Those seats, the vice president, oh my goodness. The chair, vice chair, and secretary treasurer
Hey,
positions.
Kim, I apologize, but we can barely hear you.
I'm so sorry. I don't have my external speaker. Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right, so I'll start over. So every year, the Western Regional Water Commission holds officer elections at the beginning of the year. The chair, vice chair, and secretary treasurer positions expire on December 31st until the next board meeting where the board can hold elections and re-elect those positions. So the current chairman is obviously you, Mr. Paul Anderson. Alexis Hill is the vice chair, and Susan Sievert is the current secretary treasurer. So I'll turn the time over to the board to make some nominations.
Okay,
Mr. Chair.
we'll open it up for nominations. Member Vanderwell.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we keep you as chairman Member Andriola as vice chairman, and if Ms. Sievert would like to continue as secretary treasurer, I will propose that slate.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion for Chair Anderson, Vice Chair Andriola, and Secretary Treasurer Sievert. Any questions or comments? All right, not hearing any. Oh, yeah. Please let me know if you're online and you would like to ask a question or make a comment. Okay, not hearing any, we'll go ahead and go to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, move on to item 11, discussion possible direction to staff regarding agenda items and dates for future WRWC meetings. And Kim, this is still with you?
This is still me. Can you hear me okay? I'm
Yes,
trying to
ma'am.
get close. Okay. Thank you, Chairman, members of the commission, Kim Rigdon for the record. Our next meeting is April 15th. We will not have a March meeting. Staff will be at the Water Reuse Conference in Los Angeles, and it will be held at the Sparks Chambers at 8:30 in the morning. We also have our budget hearing scheduled for May 27th. And that is at the same time, we've coordinated that with the Flood Management Authority as well as TEMWA to hold those budget hearings all on the same day. That'll be held at 9 o'clock in the morning in the Sparks Chambers. And if there's any other items that the board would like to make recommendations on hearing from us on, we look forward to hearing that.
All right, thank you, Kim. Let me open it up to the board. Anyone have any questions on this, comments?
Mr. Chair, real quick, Kim, this is Member Taylor. If you could just keep us posted on the regional water management study and moving forward with 1B and 1C and the timelines, and let us know if there's something that you need from us to keep us going, I would really appreciate that.
I can do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Taylor. I appreciate you mentioning that. I think that's a good idea. With that, then we'll go ahead and request a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Member Andriola. Second by Member Vanderwell. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Passes unanimously. And we're going to open up for final public comment. Do we have any public comment? All right, thank you. We'll close public comment and move on to commission comments. Do any of the commissioners have any comments? All right, hearing none, we'll close that and move on to item 14, staff comments.
No staff comments at this time, Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. And with that, we're going to go ahead and adjourn. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks all.